every story appears ordinary till you see the core side of it.
And what you're looking for is the story behind the news.
We bring it to you from Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria.
Giving you all sides and political stories round the clock.
Every detail from the start line to the final whistle.
CoreTV News, expanding your view.
Good evening. It's good to have you join us on CoreTV News at 7. I am Ebolomo Adekunle. President Goodluck Jonathan may not have formally declared his intention to seek re-election. One of his closest associates insists that the president's eyes are on a second term in office. Dipriye Alamesia told journalists in Abuja that Jonathan would not only contest but would also win. He spoke on the sidelines of the final session of the just concluded national conference.
The president will contest and he will win convincingly, and it's authoritative. He will win convincingly. He will have pan-Nigeria mandate to rule. There is nothing like APC. You know that. Or you want to hear from me?
Go on, sir.
You want to hear from me? Yes. APC is dead.
Former Borno State Governor Ali Modu Sharif on Friday held a closed-door meeting with President Goodluck Jonathan. He later explained to State House correspondents that he was on a private visit. The former governor, however, admitted that he is on the verge of joining the People's Democratic Party and also spoke briefly on the security situation in the northeast Nigeria.
Yes, there's this matter that I might join the PDP, but that was not the discussions that brought me to the president now.
That brings his question relevant.
Yes.
Why leave APC for PDP, and what are you bringing into it?
People like us, who the nation have done everything that as an individual you want your nation to do for you, by the grace of God and the people of Nigeria have put me into that position. At every time, my interest should be how to move the nation forward. Need every one of us, every Nigerian, to put his head together to see what we can do to help this nation. Whatever that as a civilian will do will only contribute. My being a chief executive of the state for 8 years, what I have seen through my tenure, I will contribute to the security agencies through whom I got those information. And what you have to understand, the country is a big country, and Borno State is a different state from any other state in the nation.
The People's Democratic Party in Osun State says it will go to court over the conduct of the just concluded governorship election, citing cases of irregularities. Frank Omalape has more.
The usual activities at the PDP State Secretariat seems to have slowed down after the outcome of the governorship election. Just a few were seen moving around. The party's publicity secretary in Osun, Bola Ajao, says it is not yet over for the party as it has resolved to go to court over the outcome of the August 9 election.
Sean, the party here, the stakeholders, the executive, the who is who, we've all, including our candidates, we've all resolved to go to the court. And this is where we are heading to. And we are doing all that is needful to ensure that we prove our case and we emerge victorious and the stolen mandate is returned back to the lawful owners.
The APC spokesperson Kunle Oyatomi defended the outcome of the election as a renewed mandate for the incumbent governor.
The appeal court in Ibadan restored justice to Governor Rauf Aregbesola for his mandate that was stolen 3.5 years earlier. So that's the thing about it. But he has proven today that that mandate has been also renewed through the popular wish of the people.
Although the national body of the PDP and the president has congratulated Governor Rauf Aregbesola, the winner of the election, the party at the state level says it has reasons to head for the court over the election.
We have had cause to complain about certain irregularities, particularly it has to do with the employment and engagement of ad hoc staff, the presiding officer and the likes. That we wrote a petition to INEC, and we have not up to now seen any reaction.
Analysts have described PDP's loss in the Osun election as a big setback for the party at the state level. But a PDP stalwart in Osun, Bola Ajao, says the outcome has not affected the party structure in any way.
You will agree with me that they say he who wears the shoes know where it pinches. As much as we, the branch of the party here in Osun State, have seen unassailable, incontrovertible evidence here and there.
The new development in the Osun politics might just be an interesting trend to political observers who are watching with keen interest. Frank Omalape, CoreTV News, Osogbo.
Determined to prevent the spread of the deadly Ebola virus to the state, the Osun State government has announced that the 8-long tradition festival of Osun Osogbo will be celebrated in a low-key atmosphere. The government added that both local and foreign tourists have been barred from this year's event. Rashid completes the story.
Many countries in the West Africa sub-region is now a no-go area for tourists due to the outbreak of the deadly Ebola virus. In the last 6 months, the scourge has claimed over 1,000 lives in the region. A Liberian-American diplomat, Patrick Sawyer, imported the disease to Lagos in July, and the country has recorded 4 deaths from his primary contacts. The yearly Osun Osogbo Festival is an age-long traditional celebration known throughout the world as one event that attracts thousands of individuals across the globe to Nigeria. Deeply concerned about the spread of the Ebola virus, the government of Osun State announced that the only way to keep the people of the state safe is to have a low-key celebration without tourists this year.
In our effort to make sure that the dreaded virus does not find its way to our midst, government has at great pain decided to restrict the influx of tourists into the state for this year's Osun Osogbo International Festival. What this means is that the festival this year will only be a low-key celebration. Only the traditional worshippers and well-wishers who are resident in the state will be allowed to partake in the celebration to minimize bodily contacts between persons, which is the primary mode of transmitting the virus.
According to Ayo Gumoko, chairman of the organizing committee for the Osun Osogbo International Festival, the committee will comply with the state's directive on low-key celebration since it is in the overall interest of the state and the nation at large.
We, the organizers of the festival, are in total support of the state government's crowd control measures being put in place to minimize the risk of the spread of this disease during the Osun Osogbo Grand Finale coming up on Friday, 22nd, 2014.
The state government, however, allayed fear that the religious aspect of the festival, which is the Arugba procession, will still take place, but only with the traditional officials. This, by extension, means that all sorts of people will not have the opportunity to get to the grove this year to pay obeisance before the Osun River.
The normal procession of the Arugba to the shrine will take place with all its attendant fanfare. However, attendance at the procession will be restricted to the traditional worshippers and residents within the state alone. scaling down this year's celebration of the Osun Osogbo festival is a sacrifice we must make in order to prevent a crisis that will put human lives in jeopardy.
The yearly Osun Osogbo festival is always accompanied with fanfare, but this might not be the case this year, not until a lasting solution is found to the scourge of Ebola. Rashid, CoreTV News, Osogbo.
The World Health Organization says the scale of the Ebola outbreak appears to be vastly underestimated as the death toll from the disease reaches 1,069. The body says its staff had seen evidence that the numbers of the reported cases and deaths did not reflect the scale of the crisis. It added in a statement that extraordinary measures are needed. The outbreak began in Guinea in February and has since spread to Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria. However, the WHO remarks that the risk of transmission of Ebola during air travel remained low as the disease is not airborne. As a consequence, Kenya Airways has rejected pressure to suspend its flights to the Ebola-hit state of West Africa. The outbreak, according to the World Health Body, was expected to continue for some time. WHO is coordinating a massive scale-up of the international response. Nigeria has threatened to sanction any international media that attempts to run down the country over Ebola. Information Minister Labaran Maku issued the threat while drawing attention to unfair reports in foreign media on the Ebola situation in Nigeria. Maku stated that contrary to the report, there is no Ebola case in Abuja.
There are two newspapers that I've seen. I haven't seen the report in other papers, who also report a very unfair story about Nigeria. The claim was that there were some 4 Indian doctors who were forced in Abuja, to treat Ebola cases. One, the names of the doctors were not announced. None of the newspapers carried the name of the doctors. None of them carried the name of the hospital where those doctors were allegedly forced to treat Ebola cases. None of those newspaper houses collaborated their story with the Minister of Health, the Nigerian health officials, or the Minister of Information. But this story was outlandishly published. But it is not now in this country and everywhere. There has not been any single Ebola case in Abuja.
Lagos State government has debunked reports in some quarters that victims of Ebola virus are not properly taken care of by government. Governor Babatunde Fashola stated this position while reacting to statements credited to the families and friends of the victims who claimed that affected people in the Isolation Emergency Center of the state government are being subjected to inhuman treatment. Fashola also solicits for more volunteer health workers to assist in the fight against the spread of the deadly Ebola virus.
While we sympathize with the families and the victims, the health workers are doing the best they can. My appeal is for more health workers to sign up. And let me share with you also what I was told in my meeting this morning, that even if you were the best physician in the world today, if you came there today, you can't enter into that isolation ward because you need to be trained in how to kit up and how to get out of the kit so that you don't infect yourself. You need also to be trained in the flow of activity inside that isolation unit. If you come in from a particular place, you can't go out from there. And you need to end up in a place where you can be washed down and taken out. So, and that training takes anything from 5 days to 7 days to achieve. So even if we had all the full complement of doctors signing on today, it is risky to put them inside that place without first training them.
The Nigeria Medical Association wants the health authorities to reverse the decision to suspend residency training programs for striking doctors. It also demands unconditional reinstatement of resident doctors that have been handed sack letter. This was the outcome of an emergency meeting of NMA's national officers in Abuja. The report.
This is the sack letter that forced the NMA to have an interface with the media on the ongoing doctor strike. And expectedly, its leaders are not impressed by a decision they say is targeted at breaking their ranks. Rising from an emergency meeting, NMA is demanding an immediate withdrawal of the suspension circular.
Consequently, it is hereby resolved as follows. 1. Nigerian Medical Association condemns in totality the alleged presidential directive via the Federal Ministry of Health suspending residency training program in Nigeria. Nigerian Medical Association demands immediate withdrawal of the suspension circular and unconditional reinstatement of the so-called SAG resident doctors. Government should show commitment on her part in resolving the current impasse with the Nigerian Medical Association. By all means, any attempt by government to break her ranks as association will be resisted. Rather than abolishing residency training program, government should show more commitment towards improving the already poor funded program.
NMA insists that the decision to abolish residency training program is illegal. It also sent out a clear message to resident doctors.
In the light of the above, therefore, the Nigerian Medical Association hereby directs that no doctor should accept or collect any sack letter or sign any register opened by the government or her agents in the hospitals. For the avoidance of doubt, no medical doctor, no matter how hungry, should pick up any locum appointment with the government hospitals as directed by the circular. Any doctor who flouts this directive does so at his or her own peril.
The government had argued that the doctors' strike was not justifiable since it had met 90% of their demands. But the doctors have a different position.
And on the 24-point demands, government said yes, yes, yes. That does not mean implementation. And what has been said by the Honorable Minister that 90% have been met, it is absolutely false. When we expect that an agreement has been implemented is when the end result has been achieved.
The striking doctors said they have no intention to return to work until all their demands are met. They say government's decision to suspend residency training would only make a bad situation worse.
Meanwhile, resident doctors are also kicking against the government's decision to suspend residency training program at federal hospitals. Armed with placards, they staged a peaceful protest at the Secretariat of the Nigerian Medical Association in Abuja. The resident doctors say they are now out of job for demanding improved healthcare services in Nigeria.
Not asking for suspension of sponsorship. They are saying they've sacked us. I don't have a job now. The letter says they are suspending the program, and there's an accompanying letter, a prototype that says they should issue to every resident, terminating his appointment. I'm a senior civil servant. You cannot sack me just like that, out of the blues, just waking up from your bed, you say I'm sacked. There has to be procedure. So if in terms of legality, they have committed a big flaw. But this is Nigeria, anything goes. What we are saying is this is what has been done. As a tool for bargaining, we perceive that as a mistake in the principle of negotiation. It will only escalate the problem. Ebola, we are concerned. Let the federal government and the state government try NMA at the federal and state, at national and state levels to see whether we participate. If we don't participate, then we are not willing to help Nigerians. I think Ebola should be an issue that should not be used in this context at all. We have responded when the bomb blast happened in Kano, Kaduna, Yobe. We've shown them that we can go to work and do everything.
Fire gutted the popular Tejuosho market in the Yaba area of Lagos 7 years ago and left many traders and business entrepreneurs stranded as well as agonized. The pain and losses suffered at that time and the period after have finally paved way for big relief to the traders as the state's governor, Babatunde Fashola, commissions the new ultra-modern Tejuosho market. Olajumoke Olatunji has more.
As work on the new Tejusham market reaches final stage, the first phase of the ultra-modern Tejusham market is now ready for business, with over 4,000 shop spaces including lock-up and key clamp shops offering investments and commercial opportunities for businesses.
We have purpose designed in this new market key clamps, and we have provided 1,251 instead of 533 that was in the old market. Of course, you now have banking spaces, you have 14 food court spaces, you have 8 lifts to enable goods and services to move up and people, you have 2 escalators to enable people go up and down the 4 flights without climbing very steep steps, you have 2 ramps designed to assist physically challenged people to get into and out of the building, and you have a creche where nursing mothers can attend and keep their children while they are training. Of course, we have also learned from the incident that caused the disaster, so there is a dedicated fire service station here to ensure, and there are fire fighting systems that have also been built into the market. While the old market was designed for a limited number of shops, as I said, unauthorized extensions were created in the area reserved for parking and other services. Now, you will now have a dedicated car park for about 800 vehicles. And so, my first hope is that there will be no illegal spaces and concessions created in this market again.
The Commissioner for Physical and Urban Development, Olutoyin Ayinde, says it is the desire of Lagos State government to meet the expectation of businessmen and women so as to redefine trade and investments in the state.
The new Tejusham shopping complex is a proof of the determination of Lagos State to stand out and not do things the way they have always been done in our nation. We have all around us the evidence of what happens to our public buildings when they are involved in mishaps, such as Inferno, like the one that affected the old Tejusham market. The NITEL and Defense Headquarters buildings are still fresh in our memory. So, in the midst of these examples, where others have failed, the Lagos State government chose to make a difference by departing from what used to be the habit and restoring the confidence of the weak and delivering a brand new complex.
The project manager, Obafemi Onoshide, says unfortunate fire incidents which burnt down the old Tejusham market necessitated innovation for a bigger, more sophisticated complex.
The projects, this Tejusham market complex, all started when the previous old market structure got burned down in December 18, 2007. And causing so much casualty and losses. The hitherto structure had so much challenges, and in fact, training in it was a nightmare.
In her remarks, the Geology General urged traders to maintain the market with all civility. The new market complex, rising from the ashes of the old traditional Tejusham market, is strategically located along the Ojuelegba-Itira Road in Yaba, with fascinating views of Surulere. The construction of the massive edifice has been on since 2008. Olajumoke Olatunji, CoreTV News, Lagos.
You're watching the CoreTV News at 7. We'll take a break and we'll be back with stories outside Nigeria. Stay with us.
This is Lagos. This is our city. You know that our city needs heroes. Yeah, yeah. Our future is in our hands. The spirit of Lagos. A city that is strong in value. A Lagos that is filled with heroes. With neighbors that care for each other. This is Lagos. This is our city. Our city needs heroes. Our future is in our hands. The spirit of Lagos.
I need you, you need me. Together, we're the spirits of Lagos.
Welcome you to From the Ivory Tower and happenings around the country. Varsity teachers get to air their views.
Students are actually not left out. We bring you intellectual hints on the events happening around you. It is dedicated to educating the populace with a spice of entertainment.
From the Ivory Tower, Tuesdays, only on Core TV News.
Thank you so much for being there. Somali government and African forces battled a powerful warlord in Mogadishu, with security forces then storming a major radio station critical of the fighting and arresting journalists. Witnesses reported at least 5 dead in a gun battle lasting several hours after the army, backed by African Union troops, launched a pre-dawn assault on the base of the warlord. Ahmed died in a bid to disarm his militia. There were bursts of intense gunfire and heavy explosions, with rocket-propelled grenades fired by both sides, reporting at least 5 dead. Dai, however, escaped the attack and is reported to be on the run. After fighting calmed, security forces turned to one of Mogadishu's main radio stations, Radio Shabelle, arresting 20 staff and seizing equipment, with a security official accusing it of negative broadcasts about military operations. That's all we have for you on Core TV News at 7. Join us again at 9:45 for the primetime news. Thank you for watching. I am Ebolomo Adekunle.